My name is Danny Robinson. I'm with Bootup Entrepreneurial Society, and prior to that we started Bootup Labs, which was an accelerator similar to Grow Lab. I'm Canadian by birth, but lived most of my life in the Valley, Silicon Valley. Sometimes we say Valley here, they think you mean, you know, the Okanagan Valley, but no, this is Silicon Valley. And I moved up here in 2000 with my wife, who's American, and we didn't mean to, but we ended up falling in love with the Vancouver area and don't ever plan on leaving now. So we decided to do whatever we can to make Vancouver a great place to start, specifically an internet company, because that's the area we understand and know. But just being very entrepreneur friendly. So Bootup Labs and Bootup Entrepreneurial Society got started out of that. And the flagship event of Bootup Entrepreneurial Society is the launch party event, which was the opening party last night for Grow. And Debbie, who puts on Grow, is a good friend of mine for a while. And I finally twisted her arm last year to come up and try to do this. And I think I think she still thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah, I just interviewed her, and she said she's coming back.
Good. So there you go. So I think she sees it as a pretty big success, and I think most of the people here also agree that this really helps the entrepreneurial community connect to the Valley, and you know, get either whatever it is, customers, money, exposure, PR, whatever it is that they're looking for. You know, you need a launch pad, you need a kind of like a catalyst like this to get people to think that way.
So is that something that you're mentoring now? Before, when you were starting up, because you've been involved with web stuff, what were you involved in?
So yeah, I started 3 internet companies. The first one was in Silicon Valley. It was called Spinway, and I didn't know anything at the time, and I had to go find people who could help me, right? And you know, so I just went around and looked for every event that I could go to. I went there, I talked to everybody about what my idea was and tried to get anybody who might be interested. And over time you eventually get people who just say, yeah, that's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard in my life. And not everybody says that, hardly anybody actually, but all you need is a few, and you know, those people open another door, which opens another door, and finally you get what you need. So I ended up raising $100 million for that company in various levels of different types of financings.
So I'm assuming that's the boom part of it. So there would be a bust part of it after that, right? So
yeah.
What happened then?
So we did sell the company at the end of 2000, but by that time prices were pretty constricted, and when you raise so much money, you know, and if you don't sell your company for a vast multiple of that money, the founders generally don't get a lot of money. So I got a little bit, but not a lot.
But you got a lot of experience out of that, and how did that apply to what you've been doing, say, more recently now that you're up here?
Yeah, so since then I moved up here. Right after that company was sold, we moved up here with our 3-month-old daughter, and figured that was a startup into itself, and decided to, you know, just try out Vancouver for a while. And then we ended up loving it here, as I said, and we stayed, and started another company up here called Peerflix, which is a DVD trading company, and I had all my contacts in the Valley, so I just basically, you know, flew back and forth to the Valley once a month almost. Didn't really integrate with the city much. At that time I wasn't sure we were even going to stay in Vancouver. And then after we sold that company, we decided we're staying. So we looked at the city and looked at what was needed, and there was just most of the entrepreneurs in town didn't know anybody in Silicon Valley, didn't have any connections down there. I don't even know if they realized that they needed to have that either. Like, they didn't see the value there. So we started to look around and look for companies that we could provide some help to. And we found a lot that really needed just a phone call, right? To say, you just need to talk to that guy. And a lot about mentoring, I call it, mentoring is mostly a euphemism for being like, for networking, right? You really aren't, like, if you think you can really go up to an entrepreneur and give them advice and they're just gonna listen to you, it's probably kidding yourself, because, you know, entrepreneurs are generally, by design, relatively stubborn people, and that's a good thing. You want them to be, you know, that way. But what you need to do, what they need more than anything, is just the connections, right? So that's
so I noticed you have the C100 logo there. So tell me, how are you involved with them? How does that all connect to Grow?
Yeah. So yeah, we're all very big happy family. So when the C100 was just getting contemplated by, Chris Albinson and Anthony and Catherine, we were talking about it. I think when was that? I can't remember when the first get started, but we started talking about all the different ways we could make that work, and we were an early partner of C100. And I feel and still feel to this day that the C100 is probably the most important, and I don't say that lightly, it's the most important organization for Canadian entrepreneurs that exists, because they are a bunch of people who are passionately interested in helping Canadian entrepreneurs get connected to customers, VC money, PR, whatever they need. These guys want to help, right? And that's the most valuable thing a startup could ever use, that kind of
stuff. So
stuff.
how, with the name, the 100, what does that stand for? Is that 100 members? 100
it was supposed to be
people?
Like the top 100 Canadians originally. I remember talking about that originally. It's like, how are you going to kick out people when a better one comes along? It's just not going to be, it's going to be kind of awkward, right? And
so where are they now with that?
They got thousands of members now.
So what is the growth, you think, since you started joining them? And
I actually don't know the number off the top of my head.
Just in terms of the networking that is going on, and with Grow now,
yeah.
How do you see that all fitting together going forward?
Well, I mean, obviously, Debbie is from Vally. She's Canadian. She's part of C100 as well, and connecting that whole network together it just makes a lot of sense for the startups that we're all here to help them, right? That's the whole point for all of this stuff, is really for them.
So you mentioned launch, and they had the 4 finalists today, and then did you watch that presentation?
Most of it, yeah, not all of it.
Yeah. And so what do you think of the kind of companies that are demoing at this, or just startups demoing?
They're just as good as any other company you'd find in the Valley. One of the companies is a company that we funded, Sumify, they're one of our companies, and then Unbounce is a company that won the event, I guess. And they are a company that we've been heavily involved with as well throughout their growth and startup phase. So the other 2 are newer, but they're also looking pretty good. Right? So all these companies have been vetted many times to get to the point where they even got a chance to pitch on stage. So they are some of our best that we've got.
So do you think that's different than in the past in terms of how sort of ready they are compared to some of the companies that were, or entrepreneurs that were coming to you before, in the beginning of Bootup?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely getting better for companies to know what to do when in a situation like that, because there's so much more resources on the web nowadays with YouTube, and you can read about shareholders agreements and all the different documents you need to start your company. You can know that on the web. When I was starting, I needed my lawyer to tell me, and I had a whole vast network of advisors and people who are helping me do all that stuff. But now you just Google it and it's all there. So if entrepreneurs don't at least have a relatively high quality pitch without talking to anybody out the gate, they're obviously not doing their homework, and that's sad, right? They should just doesn't take very long to Google, how to give a good pitch.
So you've been, just to sum it all up, you've been doing this for, over 10 years, and how do you keep interested in this? What keeps you going into the next year?
I love the startup phase. I love the creativity and how entrepreneurs think outside the box, and just, always make you think in ways that you never thought you'd think. And I love that. And when you spend your days around that, it becomes extremely addictive. And it's not like something I'm ever going to get sick of. That's for sure. So typically, when I start a company, I usually try to get out of it when there turns to be about 30 employees or so. I get bored. I don't like the monotony, the operational side of things. But there's people who do love that. So they'll try to optimize and tweak the company and get a little bit better. And it's just not me. Personally, I just love that early stage, discovering the market, finding those customers. So
they keep you inspired. And
totally, yeah. I'm going to do another one though, I think so.
Okay.